So Elon Musk did an interview with a BBC reporter about his new purchase of Twitter and the handling of misinformation and hate speech. Twitter, honest to God, I really think Twitter is in better hands, me personally. I think that Twitter can be held accountable better. I think Twitter making blue checks purchasable is absolutely disgusting. Let's just like, come on, Elon, don't do that. Don't take away the clout, Elon. But in terms of the app Twitter now going in the new direction that it's going, and I have no complaints. I have absolutely zero complaints. The BBC tried to grill Elon and tried to make up all sorts of ridiculous nonsense, but Elon, in my opinion, absolutely obliterated this journalist. Let's watch.
Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if at the point at which you lose free speech, it doesn't come back.
I think the issue some people have is that a lot of people were brought back. I mean, some people were brought back who were previously banned for spreading things like QAnon conspiracies. You have people like Andrew Tate who were brought back, who were previously banned for things like hate speech. Do you think you prioritize freedom of speech over misinformation and hate speech?
Who gets to decide what misinformation or hate speech is? Because I remember a point in time on Twitter, back when you could say crazy shit like kill all white people, kill all men, you know, F Christians. Like, if there were certain groups that were not protected on Twitter, if you were white or a male or a Christian, if you were any sort of like, I hate to say it because I'm a liberal and I hate when like conservatives try to act like they're like these victims. But it is true that on Twitter, there were certain groups and demographics that were protected, and there were certain groups and demographics that were not protected. So it's funny to me that Twitter and people who support the former version of Twitter that was ultra, super duper, hyper left wing, it's funny when people of that ilk sit there and talk about hate speech is so rampant on Twitter now. Hate speech was always on Twitter. Twitter is one of the most demonic apps I've ever seen. I literally have a Twitter, and I never open it. Why? Because it's the most demonic, evil, negative app I've ever laid eyes on ever. And honest to God, for people to all of a sudden be acting like Twitter was this, shining beacon on a hill before Elon put his grubby fingers on it, it's just absolutely just ridiculous. Cap! Who is deciding what misinformation is? The BBC? The BBC is deciding what misinformation is now? Really? Really? The BBC is now they're now delegate. They're now the regulators of truth. CNN, MSNBC, they're the ones who tell us what's true now? Get the fuck out of here.
Well, you know, who's to say that something is misinformation?
Thank you.
Who's the arbiter of that? Is it the BBC?
You're literally asking me?
Yes.
Well, no, you are the arbiter.
You weren't ready for that question. See, the mainstream media and the people who support massive censorship, once you actually hold them to task and say, okay, so how are we going to decide what misinformation is? Uh-oh. See, back when Twitter was a bunch of nameless, faceless goons deleting shit that they didn't agree with behind the scenes, it was easy to just throw blanket terms at a problem, misinformation, sexism, racism, and just call it a day. Now you really got to stand on that shit. Now you got to stand 10 toes and explain what the fuck you're talking about. Now they don't want to do that, though. Now they want to sit there, oh, you're asking us? Yes, you, the mainstream media platforms that pressure YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all these other fucking platforms to delete small creators and large creators for simply disagreeing with narratives. I sound like Sneeko right now, but it has to be said. You mainstream media platforms that ruin it for everyone else, which y'all hall monitor ass. Y'all now need to be held to task. By all means, grace us with your wisdom and knowledge on why, or grace us with your wisdom and knowledge on what misinformation really is. Instead of just hiding behind fucking Jack Dorsey and the rest of Twitter all goddamn day, ruining the fun and ruining just information for everyone else.
You're on Twitter because you own Twitter.
Yes, I'm saying who is to say that one person's misinformation is another person's information? At the point at which you say that there is this is misinformation, like who is going to decide that?
You accept that misinformation can be dangerous, that it can cause real world harms, that it can potentially cause
Yes, so the point of
information in general can cause social change. That's why freedom of information is important. You never know what can cause a problem. Like, for example, oftentimes videos of black men being unjustly killed by the police can cause riots. What do? Silence media outlets from posting those videos because it might cause destruction in America? Last time I checked, when George Floyd passed away, was murdered, a bunch of people went out into the streets of America and looted and rioted and tore cities apart and blew up car dealerships. What are we supposed to do? Not show the country these cops murdering someone because of what someone else might do once they see that video? We can play this game of what we should or shouldn't show the public because of what might happen. It's not just the right wing that creates chaos in the wake of their information. The left has easily done the same thing before. What do we... Lord have mercy, bro.
Is the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false. Do you agree that that has occurred?
I'm quite sure the BBC have said things before that turn out to not be true.
Correct.
In its, whatever it is, 100-year history, I'm quite sure.
Yes.
So do we ban the BBC? Should we ban the BBC for sometimes being incorrect? Is misinformation a lifetime ban? Should it be a lifetime ban on Twitter? Because on almost every single other platform besides maybe Rumble or Kick, it is. No matter whether the information comes out to be true later on, there's never any protection, no nothing. So what I'm saying is this. Who are the arbiters of misinformation? Who are the arbiters of what should or shouldn't be seen? And how is it that the mainstream platform like the BBC can sit there and grill Elon Musk on misinformation while simultaneously sitting there saying, yeah, you know, we've been wrong a few times. We've reported some shit that was bunk a few times. But you shouldn't ban us, though, because we're the BBC. All our careers are riding on this company. Don't ban us. But that random guy on the internet that says some shit that the mainstream media, you know, XYZ companies and the US government, that guy that contradicted all three of those entities, oh yeah, ban him. Right.
Even if you aspire to be accurate, there are times when you will not be.
We've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
What
something
hate
that you
speech
want
are
to
you talking
address?
about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
But just a personal anecdote, like what do you? I don't.
personally, my for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally, but I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
You
But
see more
personally,
hate speech personally.
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. And I'm asking for specific examples.
This guy is just full of shit. Your For You page is going to be made up of things that you are particularly interested in as an individual. It's going to recommend accounts, reports, articles, tweets, stuff that relates to you. That's why there's this thing called Black Twitter. It's not an actual place on Twitter you go to, but if you follow the right accounts, like the right posts, and retweet the right shit, you'll find yourself in Black Twitter. You don't even got to be a black person. Just like a bunch of black related shit, and you'll find yourself surrounded by Black Twitter. Your For You on Twitter is going to be mostly made up of what you are interested in. So if this guy is finding a bunch of hateful shit on his Twitter, says a lot about him as an individual.
And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
You
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that For You feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
And
said
actually,
you-
a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on
my
a second.
following.
You said you've seen
following.
more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
Well, then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen the For You hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
Then I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet.
Not even one tweet. And this guy's a journalist. This guy's a journalist and can't point out anything. If there was a massive uptick in hate speech on Twitter and Twitter became the Wild West, which has always been the Wild West, I don't use the app because no matter what part of it you're on, it's negative, hateful, and just miserable. Everybody would say something. Twitter is just a negative, evil app. It's of the devil. I'm not even religious, but I stay away from it because it's just a demonic app. it's always been a piece of shit app. It's always been a horrible app to use. So for this guy to be sitting there acting like he somehow stumbled upon some like massive hate revolution on Twitter, Twitter's not changed. It's still the like massively left wing, culture war battleground, negative space it's always been.
And yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's a false.
no. What I claimed,
just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my
Give me
feed
one
or
example.
not. I mean, right, and
Literally
you can
can't
look at
name
something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
Look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a
Right.
single example, and you can't name one.
right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
Then how would you know? That
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
That's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know this hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation.
That's the problem with these people who want to. These are the people who want to eliminate free speech from the internet. And if you are okay with people who you disagree with being banned from the internet, trust and believe, once they're gone, the people who have been banning you are looking for a new target, because people want to feel like they're cleaning up the streets of Twitter and making the internet safer and removing hateful people. Once the people you disagree with are gone, your ass is next. And these are the people who are ruining it for everyone. The people who can't even explain what their actual problem is. Their real problem is, I'm seeing more content from people I disagree with. Oh my God, why won't you ban these people? Let's just be honest.
You changed the COVID misinformation
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations? And not reporting on that at all?
Hey, look, bro, Elon spitting the facts. They want to pick and choose who gets to be held accountable for what. They sit there and make mad M's off of just putting whatever out there behind the established name of the BBC or CNN or MSNBC. Meanwhile, independent content creators get punished for just thinking for themselves and coming to their own conclusions and just putting out what they want to put out. Like I've said before, especially in the Sneeko video before, I'm not against free speech. I'm not against nasty opinions, nasty thoughts. I'm against censorship. But I do believe that opinions should be engaged and argued. Not banned and removed from the platform, but these companies want to remove everything.
And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you thought it wasn't?
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. You want to talk about the
interviewing you
BBC?
too.
All right, let's talk about.
Ultimately, bro, the BBC wants Elon Musk to use his platform to eliminate their political enemies. Please remove all of the people that espouse ideas and beliefs that are contradictory to the mainstream left-wing media narrative, Elon. Anything they say is misinformation and hate speech. Please remove the misinformation and hate speech. And when you ask us what the misinformation and hate speech actually is, we're going to sit there and scratch our heads and not be able to tell you anything because we genuinely don't know. All we know is whatever we disagree with, delete that tweet, please. Please delete it from Twitter. That's what they were able to get Jack Dorsey and all the other nameless, faceless goons behind the screens to do to your ass before Elon got Twitter. Now that they can't do that anymore, they're sitting just throwing shit at hoping it'll stick. Elon, horrible things have happened on your app since you took over. Bullshit. Twitter's always been an evil, disgusting, horrible app that no one should use from ages 12 to 112. No one should be touching that app. It's demonic, it's evil, it's radioactive. It's never become a worse or better app since Elon got it. But these mainstream media platforms want to silence you, independent media outlets, and just average everyday people from talking on these platforms and having a differing opinion. It is what it is. They realize that if you contradict them, their money goes down the drain. So they're going to utilize every platform they can to silence any contradictory opinions. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.